So if you'll just, they're bringing her down now. You will just continue to wait for a moment. I would be very grateful. Thank you. I present Miss Valerie Castile on behalf of her son and her family. And what we still believe, the tragic, needless death of her son, Philando Castile. I said in July when I first stood before you that I believe that this case would mark a turning point in this nation. I'm disappointed that it has not. I believe that this time we had to get it right. That this time we had a young man who had no criminal record, who was a 13-year employee of the St. Paul public school system, who never missed time at work, who loved the children that he served, who knew all 500 by name. And I said, this time, we didn't have a man fleeing from the scene. We didn't have a man fighting with the police. We had a man who was fully compliant as his mother taught him. This time, there should have been, in our opinion, a very different outcome. Because if Philando can die under these circumstances, let's be clear, each of you could die under these circumstances. And so today, I come, we will not give up. We will continue to fight, as you will hear from Ms. Castile, for legislation, for the good work that she is doing through Philando's Foundation, because this nation must move to higher ground. This time, in the future, it must be different. Let me thank John Choi for his leadership in this matter. This is historic. This is the first time that a police officer has ever been charged, not convicted, but charged with the death of a citizen in the state of Minnesota. And therefore, he appointed a special prosecutor, Donald Lewis. They, along with the team that you saw in court, of Westerhoff, of Paulson, of Richardson, in my opinion, did an excellent job in absolutely prosecuting this case in every detail. And so on behalf of myself and the Castile family, I stand here to thank John Choi and his team, because what you saw in court this week was a combination of talent and tenacity, and I don't know what more could have been done. I am disappointed. My heart breaks for this family. My heart breaks for this nation. With that, I'll give you Ms. Castile.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I want to also give my thanks to John Choi and the prosecutor's office. They did a great job in the representation of the facts in this manner in which my son was murdered. And I will continue to say murdered, because where in this planet do you tell the truth and you be honest and you still be murdered by the police of Minnesota while you have your seatbelt on and you're in a company with a woman and a child? My son would never jeopardize anyone else's life by trying to pull a gun on an officer and the gun was not fire ready. These are some of the facts that came out in the trial, and I am so very disappointed in the system here in the state of Minnesota, because nowhere in the world do you die from being honest and telling the truth. Now, these are some things that you need to know and recognize. There has always been a systemic problem in the state of Minnesota, and me thinking with my common sense that we would get justice in this case, but nevertheless, it never seems to fail us. The system continues to fail black people, and they will continue to fail you all. Like I said, because this happened with Philando, when they get done with us, they coming from you, for you, for you, and all your interracial children. Y'all are next. And you'll be standing up here fighting for justice just as well as I am. I am so disappointed in the state of Minnesota. My son loved this state. He had one tattoo on his body, and it was of the Twin Cities, the state of Minnesota with TC on it. My son loved this city, and this city killed my son, and the murderer gets away. Are you kidding me right now? We're not evolving as a civilization. We're devolving. We have taken steps forward. People have died for us to have these rights, and now we're devolving. We're going back down to 1969. Damn! What is it gonna take? I'm mad as hell right now. Yes, I am. My firstborn one son died here in Minnesota. Under the circumstances, just because he was a police officer, that makes it okay. Oh, now they got free reign. He's found innocent on all counts. He's shot into a car with no regard to human life, and that's okay. Thank you, Minnesota. Thank you, Minnesota. That's all I have to say.
Little sister. I'm 24 years old. We're 10 years apart. I never really have talked throughout this whole year, throughout this whole process of everything that has happened, because I get very emotional when it comes to my brother. But the system really is wrong, and they really failed us. They really failed us once again, because my brother was a good man. You never even heard him raise his voice. You never even heard him yell. And for that man to get on the stand and lie, he got caught in 3, 4, 5 different lies. You seen the gun? The gun was in his pocket. Y'all the reporters, y'all wrote up all this stuff, so y'all know what was said. And for them jurors to not have enough human empathy and a conscience to just do the right thing, that just baffles me. That just baffles me. Was it in his pocket, or was it in his hand? Or did it fall out? Or like the paramedic, y'all patted him down and y'all found it in his pocket. I know my brother. My brother would never, ever put Diamond in danger or Dayan in danger, because he loved that little girl. And he loved this state, and I am really just so hurt because he took away something so precious for me. That was my brother, that was my mentor, that was my father figure, that was everything. That man worked hard every single day, every birthday, every Christmas. He was the one that made sure I had a gift. He didn't deserve to die the way he did. And I will never have faith in this system. I will never have faith in this system. I will never have faith.
One thing else I have to say is, Yanez may have gotten away with justice on this plane of existence. He will not get away with divine justice. He has the answers to someone bigger than all of us. We're just here. We're just going through this human experience. He will have to face his creator, and I hope he died tonight.
Thank you. That concludes our statements. I hope that you will respect the family's privacy, and that you will understand that this has been a very long journey that has been tremendously traumatic, and I hope that you will refrain from bombarding them with questions. That will be it. Thank you very much.
This is a special report from WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network. We're using a report from the New York Times on this 16th day of June 2017 on the outcome of a police murder in the state of Minnesota. We'll read from the article, and you will hear from Judge Hatchett. She acted as the MC in this event, and the mother of Philando Castile and his sister. A short news conference there, and where his mother laid out the case for the injustice that met her late son. This is from Mitch Smith of the New York Times. A Minnesota police officer who fatally shot an African-American motorist at a traffic stop, transfixed the nation as his girlfriend live-streamed the aftermath, was acquitted of all charges on Friday. The officer, Geronimo Yanez, had been charged with second-degree manslaughter and endangering the safety by discharging a firearm in the shooting of Philando Castile. After the verdict, the Castile family immediately left the courtroom. When a deputy tried to stop his mother, Valerie, she let me go. And the jurors and Yanez were quickly led out of the courtroom, no doubt. The verdict came in the fifth day of deliberation following an acquittal last month of an Oklahoma police officer who killed an unarmed African-American. Of particular interest here is the prosecutor's decision last year not to charge the Minneapolis officer who killed another African-American man, Jamal Clark. So in other words, we have a history, as the mother of Mr. Castile said, a history of systemic racism in the state of Minnesota and in the Twin Cities area in particular, as this decision rings around the world. Mr. Castile's death on the 6th of July, almost a year past, became an international news almost immediately because of his girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, who was sitting in the front seat. You imagine that, streaming the aftermath live on Facebook. From the moment the case hinged largely on conflicting accounts of what Mr. Castile was doing before he was shot, the officer claimed in the Facebook video and again last week on the witness stand that he believed Castile was grabbing for a gun. Mrs. Reynolds said in the video and testified in court that Mr. Castile had been trying to cooperate and produce his driver's license. The killing led to weeks of protests that included an encampment outside of the governor's residence in Minnesota, renewed questions about how officers' use of force and the treatment of African Americans. The prosecutors said that the officer had created a dangerous situation because there was not only a woman, there was a young child in that car. Perceived a threat were non-existent. In addition to killing Mr. Castile, almost wounded Ms. Reynolds and her young daughter in the back seat. He was making assumptions and jumping to conclusions without engaging in dialogue. He was trained to have a citizen's encounter like this. Jeffrey Paulson, he's the prosecutor, said in closing arguments on Monday, and that his fault and not the fault of Philando Castile, who is unfortunately dead. Castile was licensed to carry a gun and was recorded on the dashboard camera, calmly telling the officer that he had a weapon in the car. Yanez told him not to reach for the weapon, and Castile and Ms. Reynolds both tried to assure the officer he was not doing so. Within seconds, the officer fired 7 shots. The prosecutor said Castile mentioned his gun to allay concerns and not to threaten the officer or escalate the situation. If someone were just about to reach in their pocket and pull a gun and shoot an officer, the last thing they would do is say that, according to Mr. Paulson. The attorney involved, the defense attorney, one Earl Gray, said his client had to react quickly to what he believed was an immediate threat. Gray said the officer smelled marijuana. That didn't have anything to do with it at all. But this is to dirty up the background of the late Philando Castile, and believe Castile matched a description of a recent robbery suspect and saw him grabbing for a gun. We have him ignoring his command. He's got a gun. He might be a robber. He's got a marijuana in his car. This is what Gray did there. A great disservice. Yanez did not tell Castile about the robbery suspicions, only that his brake light was out. And this is the justification. This is a simple lynch type tactic. used at night driving while black. There was a famous case on the Jersey Turnpike. Gray said his approach made sense and that the officer, Yanez, had acted reasonably given his training and what he knew that night, which was a lie. He did what he had to do. Well, he did it. The 12 jurors there, 2 African Americans, were on the jury, but that didn't really matter. The prosecution defense lawyers said the video footage supported their version of events. The defense lied. The case is extraordinary in Minnesota. It's believed to be the first time in history that an officer was charged in an on-duty fatal shooting. It was closely watched by police officers and protesters. On Monday, a passing motorist yelled guilty at 3 jurors taking a smoke break. Tells you the type of characters were on that jury. The trial took place amidst a national debate over whether officers can be convicted of crimes. In Tulsa, we had somebody named Betty Jo Shelby. We covered that, was acquitted of manslaughter last month in the fatal shooting on unarmed African-American Mr. Crutcher. Officers were also standing trial this week in fatal shootings in Cincinnati and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yanez, in a small courtroom downtown, defense lawyers made repeated mention, and this is clouding up the record of Castile and Reynolds' use of marijuana. Marijuana, study after study has found that it is not a drug that makes people aggressive. This is a lie to begin with. The prosecution should have put an expert witness up there. Drug found in his car after the shooting claimed that Castile had been under the influence of marijuana and delayed his reactions at the time of the shooting. We cannot say that Philando Castile was going to shoot Officer Yanez, but Gray said what we are saying is that he did not follow orders. He was stoned. That obviously was a lie. Paulson, the prosecutor, said the version of events was contradicted by the video. He said the footage showed that Castile was driving normally, pulled over quickly, and was alert and courteous when talking to Yanez. He accused the defense of blaming the victim. The blaming of the victim is a normal defense stratagem. When you're talking to juries and you have a history of a racial animus towards particular people, in this case African Americans, that Philando Castile was the poster boy for crime, literally. And that is what happened here. It's pure and simple. He didn't offer any resistance. The tape pulls that out. This Yanez character lied. He contradicted himself 3 or 4 different times there. But the reason he got away with it was simple racism 101. And in Little Havana in Florida, the President J.D. Trump was talking about human rights in Cuba. He cannot talk about human rights in Cuba and not address human rights in St. Paul, Minnesota. This is an international case, of course, Sabre, if you call it that. And people will be demonstrating about this case all over the world. No doubt about that. And if old DJ Trump turns on his TV, he will see that happening. And this whole case of human rights in the U.S. itself is shattered by a police state mentality. And as Mrs. Castile said, this is a clear revisiting of 1969 or 1959, in my opinion, because what you have is not only do you have a advisor in the White House that is a fascist, that is a racist, and is officially a part of the White House policy, but you have unprecedented attacks on people and people-type programs, from health care to now the reshuffling at the Department of Interior by DJ Trump's lackey there to literally sell off the natural resources of the country. This is a very, very dangerous time in which we live. There's no doubt about that. And behind the resistance, this is one more case and one more cause that has joined the great resistance against this particular administration. And one of the things that they have to understand, today there was a victory for the blue team, as they call it, but how long will those victories continue to last? The history of nations has bored out the point that in Chile, for example, on the Pinochet, there was fascism there for 20 years. But it ended with a socialist government coming into power, and are now in power in Chile. So how long does this take? The same questions asked about the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans want to rewrite it, gut it. They can do this. They have the power to do it at this point in history. But how long will that power last? It'll take progressives in this nation 5 or 10 years, maybe even 20 years, to get a single payer. And until we change the law under which these types of criminals like Geronimo Yanez was indicted on, and make it easier to get the federal charges there will be no rest to this situation. And people seem and feel hopeless. It's not a good situation for the nation, because when people become hopeless, they enter a stage of anomie, as sociologists call it. And this is a very, very dangerous period. We've seen what happened in Dallas and various other places when this hopelessness bears itself out. What happened on the ballpark as a result of this, not condoning any of that, but the whole problem is a very, very real situation occurs, and this is not good for police officers in general. Some may see this as a short-sighted victory, but the situation is this case lingers on with another case, Mr. Crutcher out in Tulsa, Mr. Jamar Clark in Minnesota, and various other people that have died at the hands of quote-unquote the state. And this is what it's all about. Not a very good time at all. We'll see you on the week that was on many of the same channels here. And this has been a special report from WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network.